All right, we are officially live, Mike and Paul, in the morning. And so it's Monday morning, the 9th day of the month of March. A lot of things are transpiring as we speak. And so definitely wanted to check in with you guys and bounce some ideas back and forth. And the phone lines will be open for people to call in and share their thoughts and experiences and all of that stuff in one. So, Mr. Half Dollar, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing good today, Mike. Happy Monday. It's kind of unfortunate that we've been so attacked over there on our YouTube channel. So hopefully, that we don't jinx it over here. So we can't have that happen at all.
Yeah, and so it's just to be expected. And as I mentioned last year, especially as we get more into the political time frame of this election process. And so I'm assuming you saw that Facebook they're banning all Trump ads and things of that nature. And I don't know if they're banning Biden and Bernie ads as well, but yet I anticipate more censorship as time moves on. But we're gonna do the best we can. Mm-hmm. And so, with that being the case, welcome to this live stream. As always, in the chat, feel free to let us know what's on your mind. We'll try to get to it. If you want to address something directly, give us a call or ask a question, and we'll definitely put it up on the show. And as always, because all these videos are typically demonetized, if you want to support the channel, feel free to do so with a super chat, such as the one Jason contributed, or become a Patreon member. Information is down below. So, Jason, thank you for the super chat there.
Yes, do support Mike because he's one hardworking guy. And I tell you, we are definitely under attack. People still don't understand how is it that they attack you, but they do. The censorship and the shadow banning and everything else. I mean, it is indeed real.
Yeah, it is real. So let's start off with the very first subject matter. I'm gonna put it on the screen here. And Mr. Half Dollar, so I learned how to follow our presidential leadership via Twitter. And so here's a tweet that came out this morning. It says Saudi Arabia and Russia are arguing over the price and flow of oil. That and the fake news is the reason for the market drop. And so, Mr. Half Dollar, is that the truth or what?
Wow, it sure sounds like a convenient excuse. Everybody's clinging on to the oil price war, isn't it? So, I find that it's a very convenient excuse because there is no doubt whatsoever that demand for oil is in fact falling, and it's falling hard, right? You're not going to have all these cruise ships floating around the ocean. You're not going to have all these cargo ships floating around the ocean. You're not going to have all these planes flying back and forth all over the place. Right. Demand is in fact falling, and the oil producers have to account for that. But there's something very special about oil that is different than, say, gold or silver, and that is very bulky and it's very heavy, and you got to have somewhere safe and secure to store that stuff. And granted, you have to have somewhere safe and secure to store gold and silver too, but it's totally different ballgame when we're talking about oil. So, is there a price war going on and production wars going on and disarray with OPEC and OPEC plus, as they like to call it now? Sure, there is. But the underlying fundamental factor is that oil is not in demand right now because the demand is falling. And there's just only so much you can store above ground, right? So I wouldn't agree with that. I think that I do agree with that because the price of oil crashed into the mid-20s, right? So, but I think it's more than just the Saudi Arabia, Russia thing. I think it has to do more with the fundamental reasons that we just talked about. And as far as the fake news, I'm not sure what he's talking about there, if he's talking about the Dems doing who know what or who knows what, but you always got to throw in some fake news with it too.
So no mention whatsoever of the current health scare underway that's eroding confidence, and so you factor in all the unhealthy news that's out there. There's all types of things out there that plays into what's currently underway now, outside of just the fake news and oil. So and speaking of that, Mike, let me just add something here real quick if I can. So my family and I went out to eat yesterday, and we went out to a local Italian restaurant, one of the national chains, Olive Garden. That's where we went out to eat. And, it's pretty bland food, but I mean, I don't know. That's just where we decided and we wanted to go. I had some chicken Parmesan. It was nothing special, but like I was talking to the waitress, right? Like just asking her a couple questions, and I'm like, oh, it seems pretty full in here. And it was kind of full where I live in my area because this human malware hasn't made it to our area yet.
And they were like, well, right now we haven't seen any kind of drops in demand. Although one thing that's interesting is that it does take us an hour and a half after we close to use this special cleaner to sanitize and wipe down everything. And I'm like, oh my God, what does that mean? That like kind of freaked me out right there. I'm like, was there some sort of like scare in this very restaurant that we're not knowing about? Or because you can't imagine that they're doing this at every single Olive Garden all across the country right now. How much expense would that be? Right. And then I asked her this, right? And then I asked her, oh, well, I mean, it's good you're taking these preventative measures by wiping everything down for an hour and a half after closing. But, what about when there's, a case of human malware in our local area? Have they talked to y'all about what happens when nobody shows up at this restaurant to eat? And they're like, no. And it's just like blows my mind because people keep saying, the media is blowing it out way over proportion. That is not what I see when I'm out and about in the streets. I don't see any kind of panic whatsoever. In fact, every single person that I talk to casually about this compares it to the FLU, and they say, it's really no big deal, and the media's just blowing it out to be something bigger than it is. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Any thoughts on any of that, Mike? Yeah,
so that's another thing here in the Metro Detroit area. There was no signs of concern really, apart from those that probably follow alternative media that's gone out and purchased a couple items ahead of time. But other than that, I actually went to the dollar store the other day just to grab some things. I had to mail some stuff. And there was a lady in there who grabbed every single item off the shelf when it came to those little handy disinfectant wipes. She cleaned out the store. So I'm thinking like, wow. So there are people out there that are taking somewhat of precautionary measures to brace for the shortage of stuff that will be coming sooner than we think.
Yes. And think about this. Think of how spoiled we have been in the United States. And this is a precursor of what's coming. I went to Costco yesterday. Yeah. And before we walked in, I was like, they don't have any toilet paper. My wife's like, how do you know? And I'm like, well, look at all these carts. There's not one cart with a bag of toilet paper in it. And so we go in there, and sure enough, like we walk towards the back, and you can see just this barren back wall on the back of the store, right?
Yeah.
So all they have is like 2 different brands of paper towels, and they got it. Plenty of that, but they got it where all the toilet paper was. So we get up to the register, and we're like, did you find everything you were looking for? And we're like, no, of course not. And she's like, oh, toilet paper, huh? But here's the thing with that. I was like, well, when do y'all expect to get some more toilet paper in? And remember, like the panic buying, and just like you said, in our area, which is kind of like the same geographical area, people have not yet panicked, but they're out of toilet paper in this Costco. And they said, well, we expect to get some toilet paper in tomorrow, but not our brand of toilet paper because that comes from China. So think about this, right? There's going to be like a price reset in toilet paper, right? It's going to reset to a level higher because if there's this global supply chain disruption, what there is, even on like super basic necessities, we're going to start seeing these price increases. So combine that price increase with job losses that are coming. Oh my goodness, this is going to be one nasty recession here, Mike.
Yeah, I do agree. And so let me get into, I entitled this video stream, Quarantine plus Market Meltdown equal ? And so, I want to throw that, leave that question mark available for those that are out there watching. Feel free in the chat to fill in that equation there. And so I'm going to pull up a couple articles here that I think is stuff that definitely should get our attention. And it happens to be one. Let me see here. I'm going to put this on the screen. Let me see here. Move this one up here. How do I move that? Okay. Bam. Let me put this up here. Where we go? Give me a second. Got to figure this out. And so it's going to be this, what's going on in Italy right now due to the health scare and the concerns of getting a test run of what possibly might come to this side of the planet here when it comes to the quarantine concept. And so not only do we have politicians self-quarantining themselves, which, we got Ted Cruz who came out and said, due to my contact with someone 10 days ago, I think I'm going to self-quarantine myself. So I'm thinking like, okay, is that like really preemptive, or is that like also you're panicking? And as a politician, you don't want to be around your constituents in gatherings. So you're like, I'm going to work from home basically as a cop out. So we go from there. What do you think?
I got something to say about that.
Go ahead. Feel free.
I think that they're downplaying that too, because, I actually got an article queued up that I wrote a little bit earlier this morning that's going to launch here. But, he was making it say that his risk is extremely low. This is a person who was hospitalized, right? And what was it? It was a sustained conversation and a handshake. And he's going to say his risk was extremely low. And then he was also saying, or the CNN article was also saying, in the average time for symptoms is 5 to 6 days. So, probably doesn't have it. So the point is that they're just still downplaying this in the media. Like that, to me, in my opinion, is a disservice to the public right there. Yeah. Right. Because they're making it sound like, oh, it's just no big deal, Yeah. But yeah, as far as these, we're experiencing these kind of shortages right now, and there's still not even this kind of panic. So that's what my wife and I were saying. What happens when this kind of panic and this looting and these riots and this civil unrest start here,
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Now, to this quarantine side of things, what are your thoughts on Italy and the fact that 16 million people in northern Italy are pretty much on lockdown? And I actually saw all types of videos out there where people were scrambling, like literally scrambling. Here's some stuff on the screen here of people protesting, mad, don't want to be quarantined. I heard the last train that left out of Italy, I'm not sure if this is over the weekend or whatnot. There was people with just a suitcase or a book bag running, like they were trying their best to get up out of Dodge. And so here's actually the video. Here's a video here that I'm going to play if I can. And it happens to be actually the video I was referring to of people just rushing, trying to get the last train out of Italy or whatever region that is. And so what type of example is this? Like, is this type of same thing coming here? The quarantine, self-quarantines, cutting off borders, cutting off states, putting military at borders or whatnot? What are your thoughts?
Yes. And we need to stick on this subject for a minute because there's some very disturbing things that I want to talk about when it comes to this. But this is not the flu, right? That is not something you see when it's the flu. When you have people panicking and hurrying, and some of them are borderline running, like that person right there, this is not, because they're seeing it, right? They're seeing all these people getting sick and they're seeing their system get overwhelmed. I did an article yesterday about a little neighborhood quarantine in California, and I'm going to give this to you in the chat right here. Whoops. Hold on. What's going on? I hit the wrong thing. Okay. And, it's going to be 10 times worse here, these quarantines here, because, there was this little neighborhood in Rockland, California, and the police closed off the streets for a while. And then they even had this helicopter flying overhead telling residents to stay inside their homes, right?
Yeah.
Then they interviewed this one resident that was there, the Sacramento Bee did, and she was just talking about how her husband went out to talk to the police and they wouldn't tell them anything that was going on and they wouldn't provide them any information, only to go back to their homes and stay inside. And she's like, but obviously you put 2 and 2 together. You can see the ambulance going across the street the other day and you can see someone else going there the other day. So obviously this is quarantine/human malware related, but they just won't tell us anything. Here's my point with that. Like the quarantines in the United States, like if we think our government is botching the medical response to this, my opinion is going to be it's the same kind of botched response when it comes to these quarantines. And people are just going to be left in the dark and they're not going to be what's going on. And like the local law enforcement stuff, they're going to look at the people that are under quarantine as like hostile people, in my opinion. So that's point number one. Then point number two is it's bringing me to lead to this kind of like, I don't know, weird feeling that I have of this whole bring the troops home thing because, I'm looking at that nursing home in Washington, and I don't know if you followed any of the stats out of this, but like, they're in total, like there was this letter that they sent out, and in total there were like 160 or 170 staff, and like 60 of them are showing symptoms now and have to be gone for like 2 weeks because they're showing symptoms, right? And in quarantine. So here's my point with that. If you got half of the healthcare workers in the United States that are showing symptoms or exposed because there's no kind of gear, like as far as the masks or the PPE or whatever, we're looking at the systemic, historic, epic collapse of the healthcare system in the United States. What does that mean? And this is my opinion, right? But my opinion is I think there's going to be a mad scramble to bring the troops home. And I'm talking about bringing pretty much all of the troops home. And I think that medicine is going to be socialized and healthcare is going to be nationalized. It's going to be run by our government, our military specifically, and they're going to force civilians to report to work in our hospitals. Thoughts on any of that, Mike?
Okay, so it's only so much you can do to try to keep the calm. So basically, as you're mentioning, trying to bring everybody back, that would, to me, that would signal what all of this is going to equate to anyway, which is the complete collapse of our current monetary structure. Because you bring back all the troops, the whole primary reason troops are scattered all across the country is to control and to run and to basically dictate to the world according to the dollar standard. And so you bring everybody home. There's no enforcers of that particular petrodollar standard. On factored in this OPEC situation, Russia doesn't need to play good ball anymore. Russia is pretty much on their own. They're energy independent in a sense, and so they're not going to play ball. Therefore, there's going to be a scramble without the U.S. presence, which would equate to a complete lack of confidence. And then back here on the home front, you can't force people to go to work. And so you can't force people to go to work with a smile on their face to deliver their best. You can say you must be here, but then again, if they're concerned with their health, they're more than likely not going to go into a building where they know death or contagion is waiting on them. So
yes, that's true. But if they're forced, because
you can watch it. You can have bodies in the building, like, be here at 9:00. Okay, I'm gonna be there, but I ain't gonna be there at work. I'm gonna be there because you're telling me. And then on top of that, if the markets continue to melt down as a result of all this lack of confidence, once again, like, more people will be concerned with the fact that they look at their 401ks and IRAs. I saw somebody on Twitter, they said the worst thing I did today was to look at my accounts. I shouldn't have did that. Like, so more people will start looking and guessing and trying to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, because the other thing is this, right? Like if we're talking about this rise of this multipolar world, and obviously this multipolar world with China, right, as the forefront, or the bipolar world. Well, the problem is that we've got soldiers scattered all over the world, right? And like, if you look at the other end of that bipolar world, China does not have military bases all over the world with soldiers all over the world like the United States does. Right. So, like, for the United States empire to go down and for the new monetary system to kick into effect, we're going to have to bring the troops home, because we can't have empire, an extension of empire, unless that happens. As far as the forcing people to work, I don't know. That's interesting. I do think the healthcare system will be nationalized, and because the healthcare systems are going down, plain and simple, right? I mean, think of how much bankruptcy, based on medical bankruptcy, there is, and think of how much unpaid costs and surging costs of all this intensive care is going to cost, right? This is going to be major.
All right, so we do have a call, and let's find out what's going on. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I am calling you from beautiful Mexico.
Beautiful Mexico. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind?
I would like to discuss the Mexican libtard.
Okay.
Mexico is allowing money to become money again, and it is happening. This is very, very interesting. What they did is they had the silver libtard, but they did not stamp on a value, because that way the silver doesn't reach its melting point and gets melted down through inflation, which is created, as we know, by the Fed.
Yeah.
Mexico is doing this, and President Trump has been notified by a real billionaire that has real money, Hugo Salinas Price.
Yeah.
I would encourage you and your viewers to take a look at some interviews from this guy, because he's really interesting. And one of the things he also predicted is that stock market is going to zero. And it will hyperinflate, and the best performing stock market in the world is Venezuela. Mexico is actually going to save the world by creating real money and implementation of it. And the United States will not have unlimited dollars to spend militarily to kill humans worldwide.
Interesting. So you're saying, so the silver libertad, so Hugo Salinas Price, I'm familiar with him. Mr. Half Dollar is. So is there like an official announcement or something official that we can look up to get more insight into this?
I am currently trying to schedule interviews with 4 of the players. And I will record the interviews if I'm successful in obtaining them.
Okay.
I am not an expert when it comes to silver. I am very well educated when it comes to gold. However, I own both. And I call myself USI expat because I recently moved from the United States, to which I never will return. So, has there been an official announcement? I can tell you this. It was brought to the Mexican Congress by a minority party. That being said, all the governors of Mexico have agreed to it. They are moving forward with this.
Yeah.
And they're also proposing a law that would prevent silver from being exported to the United States until the fulfillment of the libetard is fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
So that could cause a big supply problem where silver doesn't become a commodity so much, it becomes money again, like it should be.
Yeah.
So I did send you a link, Mike, yesterday.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to read that article.
Yeah.
But this billionaire, he had a couple interviews that were on Greg Hunter's program. I'm sorry to cite another program, but I think it's very interesting. This is a guy who's a billionaire with real money, and Mexico's changing. I'm telling you, I'm down here right now. Mm-hmm. It's changing. They've always used a lot of currency. They don't use a lot of credit cards, but it's changing back to silver.
Yeah. All right, so I got the article up here now, so we'll talk about that more. And on top of that, the Mexican peso devaluation of the last 24 hours is significant. So I actually had the price of gold up, and it's at an all-time high. So we're going to touch on that off air, my friend. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Keep us up to date.
Take care. Goodbye from beautiful Mexico.
All right, my friend. Keep us up to date. It's $50. So I had the article up on the air now. And it's one of those things where it's from last year, but you've written about it. You talked about it on Silver Doctor before, but Hugo Salinas Price and his push to make silver money again in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And silver is, the largest. They have the largest and the greatest reserves itself in the ground. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the no face value, that's great, right? Because that's the problem, right? Because we don't know where the actual real price should be. Yeah. And until you know that, it would float for a while. So I think that's a great idea that it's the weight only. And it's actually the only sovereign coin in the world, to my knowledge, that does not have a face value. And the same goes for the gold, not just the silver. There's this bank called Banco Azteca. And you can actually go into these Banco Azteca. They're inside of this store, which is kind of like a rent-to-own. What's the name of the store? The name of the store is slipping me right now. Oh, Electra, Elektra, Electra. This is kind of like a national rent-to-own type of store in Mexico. And in these, they have these Banco Aztecas. You can go into these Banco Aztecas and you can buy silver libertads right now. But, one of the things about this Mexican congressman, what he's calling to do, and that's the picture I see him up on a screen from his Twitter account there, is he's just trying to make it so it's more useful in like all of the banks and where you're not charging a premium for that silver, because he wants to be used as a vehicle for savings. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things he kept stressing in his speech last month, was that he wants it to be used as a vehicle of savings alongside with the peso. But I kind of like that, because it's kind of like getting that foot in the door. And once you get that foot in the door, then that opens the door up to just going back to gold and silver in general, right? Because we know how that would end. But this is a great thing. But I don't think that it has actually been approved and implemented yet. I don't know exactly where that stands. It's one of those things where there's always these things of good news, and it's like the congressman said in his speech before the Mexican Congress, but it always gets stymied, and it gets stymied either by special interest groups, or it gets stymied by the Bank of Mexico itself, or it gets stymied by some sort of special interest there. Did any of that make sense? Or
it does. And so I would imagine, the ideas there, the initiative might be in motion, but the central bank will kill it, because once again, the goal is to not have competition. And so, of course, at this current moment, as central banks are imploding, I don't think they want competition to go backwards to what would be considered real money for people to save themselves in a crisis that they created. So we have another call here. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello. How you doing today?
Doing good, my friend. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Cecil Brown, and I'm calling from Apollo Beach, Florida. Sunny Florida, even though it made through the chemtrail skies today.
How you doing, my friend? Give me some good news today.
The good news is, people that have precious metals are smiling, and I believe you're smiling.
Yeah. Good point there.
So I got caught in this in '08, and I didn't know what to do. And I said, oh, I'd like to know what to do next time. So this is next time, and I got the recipe.
This is next time. I hear you, my friend. Yeah. So we're gonna definitely talk about metals a little bit, because gold and Australia and every currency right now is having issues right now, apart from what the dollar is showing. But yet there's a lot of people around the world that have already fled to safety, in a sense, outside of this monetary fiasco. So sounds like you know exactly what you should be doing.
You know what's going on with silver, don't you?
Give me the rundown. Give me your rundown.
Okay, on silver, when the market's down at least 10% and silver keeps going down, it's called vaporization. What that term is, vaporization. And we're in vaporization mode until they get some kind of signal, which I don't know what the signals are. I don't know what all this is and that is on the chart. But when it gets to a certain point, then here we go. It's parabolic. Yeah. Silver will go parabolic, and 50 is the all-time high. Well, you're going to put some more zeros on it.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
It's going to have more. It's going to be at least 500. You may get to 5,000, because I think gold will go to 40 or 140, and silver should be just about 9 or 10 behind instead of 85, and it could be 1-to-1. So enjoy the show, as they say, the Q followers. Go ahead and have some popcorn while you're at it too, because it's going to be good.
I will do, my friend. I appreciate you for calling in.
Hey, it's the first time I've ever called, but I've watched your show for quite a few years now. I thought, this guy knows what's going on.
Well, thank you,
but he's like me. You can talk to your blue in the face, but nobody listens. It's the same as the old saying: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him pee.
Right.
Have a good one. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, Mr. Half Dollar. So right now, current silver price is $16.99, and to me, that's a great number for me. So I'm not mad if it goes up or down. I'm happy, because I know what true money is. So everything else outside of that, to me, is a risk and a gamble that you take upon yourself in participating. What are your thoughts? What's in your mind, Mr. Half Dollar?
Silver right now at today's price, well, what it hit to earlier in the morning, is still down 16% from last September. Right? Last September 4th, we got up to $19.75. Gold punched through $1,700 last night at the open. So they're trying to make silver look like an industrial commodity right now, but it's not working, and it's not going to work. And any more downside than here is just going to have an increase in premium. So you can't really get any cheaper right now than silver is right now.
Yeah.
Now the paper price could get a little bit cheaper, but just as far as actual metal, real metal, I don't think that real metal is going to get much cheaper, because you're going to have premium creep definitely kicking in. I would agree as far as most of that. Definitely as far as the ratios, I think all the precious metals are going to get those safe haven bids here. I think palladium's not going to get that safe haven bid until the other three precious metals catch up. And yes, I am including silver in with that. I don't think that silver is immediately going to parity, but I think that silver will ultimately be at parity with these precious metals here. Especially when we go back to a gold and silver standard, we could almost use them interchangeably, kind of like the different colors of the iPhone 11, right? Still the same iPhone, it's just what flavor do you like better? But as far as silver, I'm looking for an upside surprise here, and I'm looking for an upside surprise very soon. And I would be looking for an upside surprise before a major crash in the price. And it's interesting, because what's going down today, Mike? What's going down? Your favorite thing that you like to talk about with everybody except for me, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin in particular, right? So gold is bid. Gold has the safe haven bid. Make silver look like copper. They're trying to make silver look like crude oil, but silver is money, right? And hey, if they want to smash the price and I can take some of my funny money and turn it into real money, I'm going to do that all day long.
Now watch this. I definitely want to touch on the equities markets, but then again, one thing I noticed as I look at, so right here on the screen, I have the Mexican peso in gold terms, and so it's at an all-time high of 35,000 Mexican pesos for an ounce. And then it's silver, just looking at silver here, it is nowhere near an all-time high. So if you do the comparison in all these currencies, silver has remained somewhat constant in the price terms, while gold has gotten a bid in all types of currencies. And so Chileno peso and gold, like the peso today is Chileno peso is getting hit severely today. So it's at an all-time high of 1.4 million pesos for 1 ounce of gold. And so, like, I was there in December of 18, it was 800,000. So definitely that's 600,000 peso difference there. And you go right on down the line. You go to any country you can imagine outside the dollar, and the gold is doing very, very well in comparison to those local currencies. So, but silver, on the other hand, is not really getting much of a bid. So,
yes, although it will get a bid.
Yeah.
And it is, in fact, getting a bid, right? We set an open interest record a couple weeks ago, and I haven't checked the numbers recently, but silver is bid, right? They're just feeding paper into it. So that's first and foremost. But it's not going to take long before that bid comes in, because the markets are in turmoil, right? The stock market was halted. The S&P 500 was halted for 15 minutes because it was down over 7% at the open. So, investors, smart money, smart people, they're thinking, what can I do to protect myself? And then, you got the standard go into the bond market. Now you've got a few people who want to do a little bit of CYA, cover your booty, right? You have a few people that want to do a little CYA and say, go into the bond market or gold. But the smart people are going to realize, wait a second, there's this other thing called silver here, and I can get much more of that for my dollars. So, the moves to safety are in fact on, and we see that with, everything crashing, and gold and silver are maintaining here. And that's kind of what I said on Friday, is that as the markets were crashing all week, except for that last ramp again on Friday and late in the afternoon, gold and silver are maintaining. They're not going to crash, in my opinion, like in 2008 quite as hard, especially with silver, right? We've been correcting for 6 months now in price, right? We're ready to move higher any minute.
Yeah. Now, speaking of which, they halted to trading activity, and so as soon as it started up again, it immediately went positive in a sense. And so from going below possibly 1,900, and now when they started trading again, I looked at it, it was like 1,300. So I'm like, okay, who at that point, what was the indicator that caused it to go back somewhat positive in a negative territory? And so I'm thinking, like, the Federal Reserve, central banks right now, clearly, like over this past weekend, no doubt there's a lot of meetings, a lot of discussions. Do we let this thing crumble or do we keep it up? And so I did a video on Friday about stimulus. There's going to be some stimulus coming, and then the repo action. It looks like there's going to be some adjusting of what they allow to people to actually subscribe to. So once again, the whole idea of cutting back in April, which will be next month, will not be playing out. And so do you see sometime this week another immediate cut, or some type of outright stimulus injection, or just greater subscriptions to the repo activity, or what?
I do. Well, an armchair quarterbacking kind of way, I can see that, and I actually wrote about that this morning. You got basically 2 50 basis point rate cuts left. And I think that it's actually kind of likely that you would do a 50 basis point rate cut this week. And then you could do a 50 basis point rate cut next week at the FOMC. That would get the effective lower bound. That would get the interest rate to between 0 and 0.25. Now, why I say that is because then that gets all of the rate cuts behind us, so that during next week's FOMC, they can be talking about, well, what else does the Fed have in its toolbox that it can do? So it can be looking forward to that additional other types of storage now that we got all the rate cutting behind us. So I think that is a possibility there.
But what would it do? Would it reinstate confidence? Because once again, if everyone's already saturated in debt, the corporate debt is a mess. So you see corporations going to go out and borrow more? And so I read an article, I should have grabbed it, but it talks about the need to directly get in and start subsidizing companies directly. And so whether it be to buying shares outright or some type of funny money issuance or what, but it's not going to work.
And they can't go out and borrow more, right? Because corporations can't print money. That's the thing, right? They can't go out and borrow more. So, and why can't they go out and borrow more? Because of their earnings. They're not getting the earnings in to service the debt, right? So, just generally speaking, obviously it depends what industry we're talking about, right? But like if you're a cruise ship operator, you don't want to be borrowing more to buy back your shares, right? Because you can't pay that off because your revenues are plummeting. Or if you're like a hotel or some sort of like, entertainment or tourism or something like that. So, I think that we're stuck here. These markets are coming down, and, this is just the reality. I'm glad I don't have a dollar in these markets.
Yeah, I don't think it's time for them to come down just yet because we're just at the beginning of this whole health situation. And so there's going to be the 8.3 billion was signed on Friday. We'll see what happens with that. Next week, they're going to need another 10 or 15. So I see President Trump, Steve Mnuchin, Kudlow coming together saying we need to bail out. We need to get involved ourselves so that the Fed can save some of that ammunition for an emergency. So I see some type of fiscal stimulus coming directly from the White House. Yeah. President Trump going to make an announcement sometime this week, I think, in my opinion.
Because here's the other thing about the markets coming down, right? Because the job losses are going to start mounting. So, if a person loses their job in the next couple months, think of how much pain they're going to be in by the time November comes around. I mean, if you're jobless for 3 months, that's a lot of pain, and people might be voting with their wallet at that point. Granted, that's assuming that politicians are elected, which I would not assume. But yeah, so I think these markets are coming down here, and the thing that gets me the most is everybody's like, do something. The Fed's got to do something. The government's got to do something. Well, that's the reason we're in this whole mess is because the Fed and the government does something, right? So it's like it's like that Lucy kicking that football, and Charlie Brown always really pulls it from her real quick, and she never can kick it. That scene. So it's like it's the same thing. It's like they're not supposed to do something because all they ever do is make it worse, right? Yeah. So that kind of irritates me because you see the headlines. Oh, they got to start doing something. Oh, do something to support these markets. Oh, the retirees and the savers. Well, hey, I mean, everybody has access to the same information, and they're deciding who gets to win and who doesn't get to win. And if you bought into the system, what can we really say at that point?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get ready to dial back. There's a lot of things to keep our eye on. And so Bart Light Broker, I appreciate that. For $2 says a start to your gold chain. So I appreciate that super chat, my friend. And as always, as you're witnessing all this digital and paper catastrophe unfold, that is a key indicator that confidence is lost. Don't wait or expect any politician or central banker or whoever to all of a sudden make things right. It's up to you to utilize your common sense and your wisdom to go out and do what you believe is best for you and your family. Preserve your financial future with something tangible that you can have access to and hold, preferably. And of course, as always, Mr. Dad Dollar, got a 5 ounces right here. So I think I'm in good company. What you got yourself there?
I got an SD bullion feeding around actually today.
Got you an ouncer. So
I got this in an airtight. I actually like these. These are nice. These are nice little coins. I want to put my decoder up on it because I think these are made by Sunshine Mint, and I want to know if it has that little. Have you ever seen those Sunshine Mint decoder things?
I have not.
They're really cool. Like you put it on top of the coin, and then you like turn it a little bit, and then it'll say valid on it. So it's just one of those like anti counterfeiting type things that they do with it.
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
But it's that little that center there, the center in the coin. See how it's got that moon center thing? Yeah. So I don't know if they would have put that in that feature or not. I'd just like to try it because I don't think that they did.
Well, let me know how that works. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is you got you some weight. So get heavy in these days and age, man. So you won't blow away in this monetary storm.
Yep. Get heavy on real weight. Yep, and get light on paperweight. That's right.
Yeah, paper and digital weight. All right, everybody. It's been great hanging out this afternoon. Stay vigilant, stay active, stay prepared. If you come across anything, leave a comment here, and we'll definitely try to touch on it tomorrow. And so as of now, me and Mr. Half Dollar will be doing our Mike and pause on RTD due to the fact that Silver Doctor's going to focus on the written content as opposed to the video content. So me and Mr. Half Dollar are going to be doing more video content here. So, Mr. Paul, I look forward to continue to connect with you and getting your great analysis and thoughts and commentaries along the way. So appreciate you for helping me out.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, everybody. Be blessed, be safe. See you guys later. Peace.